Well, let's get on and learn some more nouns, those in Group 2, still in Chapter 1. Here we find them. There were a couple of things I failed to mention in the last video. This neanies, this young man, right in here after ne, way back at some point in the Greek language, there would have been a w sound represented by that digamma you've learned. That is, there was a time that people would have said something much more like neanies. And if you think about it, it turns out that that sounds familiar to you because new, N-E-W, is our word new. New, young, same sort of thing. Neanies. Many words are many Greek words get borrowed into English. We'll see theos, for example, which we borrow straight into our word theology, or anthropos, which we borrow into our high-level word anthropology. But then there are words whose bases have been around in the languages of Europe forever and ever and ever, for thousands of years, and new is one of those. And I probably should mention another that's been around for a long time, which we looked at, dure. Listen to it. Have you ever noticed? What do we call that? We call that a door, right? But we don't spell it like door. We spell it like dur. 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 And if you happen to know some German, die Tür. This is another one of those words that's been around for thousands of years, and our word dur is simply a slight variation of the old Greek word dure, whose roots are even deeper than Greek itself. Okay, well, let's get back on here to these new words in Group 2. I've mentioned theos and anthropos. There's the word slave. There's a lot of good stuff about Greek society. Many great ideas like freedom for free people. But they had slaves, and there were some really ugly things about Greek society, too. You'll notice that I've been saying doulos, and we know it really is probably more like doulos. Don't bother too much when I get that wrong. Probably doulos is the way they would have said it. Notice this. Ho theos, the god. He theos, the goddess. Remember that we learnt last time that he is the word that's used for the in feminine words, and ho is the word that's used for the in masculine words. Some things have both masculine and feminine representatives. God, for example. Anthropos for another. You'll come across the word he theos sometimes, a human of the female persuasion. He theos. He hodos. Hodos. See the rough breath, right? Hodos. Ekene he hodos. That road. You think, well, I don't know any hodos words in English, and you probably don't, except you do know the compound word exodus, the road out, the way out. Exodus you usually see spelt with a US. Greek uses an OS. Latin uses a US. And that, where you see US words in English, probably they came through Latin, and the Greek was probably originally an OS. We have exodus in English, but we don't have exodus. An exodus, an entrance, is a road, a way into something. Es means into. Exodus. Haute he exodus. This entrance. And then the final three words we want to learn in this group Oops, let me see if I can. There we go. To doron, to stadion, to prosopon. The gift, the stadium, the face, or the mask, or the character. Prosopon, those of you in history may perhaps know of prosopography, that study of individual characters and their relation to other individuals, the individual people, prosopography. Stadium, look here, the UMs in Latin represent the ONs in Greek. To stadion becomes the stadium in Latin. I want to show you an interesting thing about this word for gift, to doron. This is a drawing of a real ring that exists in a museum, and you'll see that it has carved in it in capital letters, a little bit different than we would have used, but Greek capitals, so this R that actually looks like our R, a rho that looks like our R, doron, doron. The ring itself said gift on it. I don't know why. Presumably to keep some slave from getting beat up in the street or accused of thievery because his master happened to have liked him and given him a ring, and the question would be, why do you have such a thing? I don't know, but you'll see in various ways that early Greek writing was simply understood differently than we understand it. It's an old writing is an old technology for us. It was a new technology for them. So that, for example, you'll find objects like a cup in antiquity, and inscribed on it is not, if it were our coffee cup, it would say, like in my case, it would say Steve. But what it says in reality is, I am the cup of, and then it gives the man's name. Because they think of the writing as the communication of writing in a different way. I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty silly to put your name on a coffee cup, because then it would suggest, oh, this coffee cup is somehow Steve. Okay, well, at any rate. So, just a few words to learn. Ho theos, ho anthropos, ho doulos, he theos, he hodos, he esodos, and I need to mention this, don't I? To doron, to stadion, to prosopon. This is the third and final gender, which is called the neuter gender. Neuter just means neither masculine nor feminine. Now, I hope that you will not make the mistake of doing the same mistake I made when I was a 7th grader learning Spanish and spent a long time, many days, trying to understand why each noun had the gender it did. Why is la mesa feminine? What is there about a table that is feminine? Well, the fact is that a table, if you're going to have a word table in a language like Spanish or Greek, you've got to have use a word the with it, and that word the has got to be either the word the that you use with men, or the word with women, or neither one in Greek. And so someone picked one somewhere along the way, and it's just arbitrary for most nouns. In the case of gendered nouns, like where there's real sex, like the god masculine versus the god feminine, then it's not random. But there's no reason that hodos should be feminine, that the word for road should be feminine rather than masculine or neuter. It just is. It happens to use the same the that you use with women, so it's called a feminine noun. So, learn the nouns, also learn their genders, learn the right the to use with them. Here you see the masculine word for this, houtos, and you'll need to learn that too. So, hotos, ho, also ekenos, remember that, the word that in the neuter, and remember that and now you will have learned ekeno and to, and pretty soon you'll learn tuto, the neuter for the word this. Okay, get back into the exercises for Group 2. They're exactly the same process that you did for the nouns in Group 1, and then we'll move on and learn another bunch in Group 3.